Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the best shows I've ever seen, my new favorite show, made a whole series of videos discussing it as I watched through it for the first time recently. And as much as you guys hyped Avatar: The Last Airbender for me and told me how great it was, you could not have prepared me for how much I would truly love this show. Similarly, the amount that you guys warned me away from the movie, you could not have prepared me for that. I have no words. I don't know how to process. It just made me sad. So I watched the Avatar movie with Daniel Green and Tim from Hello Future Me. I watched it over on Tim's channel. The three of us watched it live and had live reactions to the entire movie. I will link it in the description if it's still up on Tim's channel when this video goes up, if you want 2 hours of nonstop ranting. You can actually see all three of us die a very slow death during that stream. But I'm not done talking about it. I'm not done ranting. 2 hours wasn't enough. It was more than enough for the movie. It wasn't enough. My frustrations aren't out. So let's have a more condensed discussion about what happened here. Honestly, there are no words. I didn't expect it to be that bad. Future Murphy popping in to say 2 things. One, as an apology to you for reminding you that this movie exists, my next video on Thursday is going to be an Avatar tier ranking video for the characters of the original series. So that'll be a really fun one. I've actually already filmed it and I had so much fun doing it. The second thing I wanted to say is that Daniel Green is also posting a Avatar movie review video today, and he gets a little less heated, so I recommend checking that out as well. Tim and Daniel will both be linked in the description of this video. On to the rant. In this review, we're going to start by discussing the characters, because in my opinion, it's the worst of the worst. It's the worst thing that this movie did, the biggest thing that this movie got wrong, and the thing that bothered me the most of all the things. First and foremost, these characters were lifeless. One of the biggest things about this show that makes this show so incredible is the depth of the character work, the incredible personalities and struggles and flaws, fears and insecurities, as well as incredible inner strength. There's so much depth to these characters. And I understand that if you're trying to cram an entire season or book into one movie, we're gonna lose some of that depth. I accept that. But it's like they didn't even try. Sokka is a hilarious, goofy, funny, very, very driven character. He wants to be their leader, but he's not great at it in season 1. He's devoted, he comes up with plans and solutions when they get into hard times, and he's the dorkiest kind of funny. He's the best. In this movie, I don't even know who he was. He had no humor to him, no leadership. He was nothing. He barely had any lines. He was a shell of a character. He had no personality whatsoever. Cue Katara. Same. I've never been Katara's biggest fan. She's not my favorite character in the show, but again, she was nothing in this movie. No personality to her, no depth whatsoever. There was even a scene where they kind of combined multiple scenes in the show, but it was essentially the prison camp in the Fire Nation where Katara went to save the Earthbenders, and she was rallying them all and giving this impassioned speech. They gave that to Aang. They offered Katara nothing. Even her arc that she was supposed to have in the Northern Water Tribe, where she stood up and fought for her ability to learn waterbending when she was being oppressed, when she was being set aside. She didn't get that arc. She just trained alongside Aang. I understand that you have to cut some things, but you can't cut entire characters while still leaving them on the screen. And that's what happened. The characters were still there, but they were completely cut from the movie. Iroh didn't look anything like Iroh, didn't act anything anything like Iroh. He had no sort of carefree nature. He had no sort of fatherly mentorship for Zuko. They even cut his line where he was telling Zuko that he loved him like a son, and Zuko says, "I know." They kind of meshed it with him just giving him advice and Zuko saying, "I know," and it was such an unsatisfying attempt. Zuko as well was, his entire character was this. He just had really intense stares throughout the entire movie, and that's pretty much all he offered. Even his scar, which is Zuko's greatest insecurity and a huge reminder of his past, of his failures, and of what's driving him, is barely there. It's so subtle that when we were first introduced to Zuko in the movie, I was waiting for Zuko to show up. I didn't know that was him. I was waiting for him to come off of the battleship until he shouted, "I am Zuko!" And then I thought, oh no. They kept closing in on the scar, trying to make it look prominent, but it wasn't prominent. It was barely there. And then we have to talk about Aang, because this is one of the only characters that they actually tried to give some depth to, but they totally missed the mark on it. Aang's number one characteristic, the two number one characteristics are his childlike joy and innocence and the fact that he is a peacemaker. Both of these things were stripped from him in this movie. He was intense and scared and confrontational or weak. He was one or the other, but not the balance that Aang is. Aang always had something to say. He was always fighting, but he also knew when to stop for the greater good. In the introduction in the movie of Zuko, Zuko says, "I'm going to do something bad here," instead of actually displaying his actions, and then Aang just immediately gives up and says, "Okay, you can take me." But in the show, he challenges Zuko and he tries to fight him off and defend the Water Nation, but when he sees that or the Southern Water Tribe, but when he sees that they're scared and when he sees that he's causing more damage this way, then he says, "You can take me," on his terms. In the movie, there's a vague threat. Aang immediately gives in, and then the Water Tribe starts playing with Appa as if their tribe hasn't just been threatened and some of their people taken away. There's even this scene that I was really looking forward to because I was expecting it to give depth to both Aang and Zuko, and that's the one after Zuko captures Aang as the blue spirit, and Aang realizes that it's Zuko. He takes him away and he starts talking to Zuko and says, "We could have been friends, you know," and then Zuko shoots a fireball at him. This was cut, and instead it was pasted at the end of the movie where Aang just randomly throws over his shoulder, "We could have been friends, you know." And Aang's trust in humanity and his desire to find the goodness in everyone, his childlike love and goodness is stripped from this character, and instead we get throwaway lines and a lot of fear and a lot of resistance, and I hated it so much. Most of the characters, they didn't even try to look like the characters that we love so deeply. And then the characters that they did try, they completely missed the mark. And it makes me think, if you had continued this movie series, if it had gotten the deals to continue on with movies 2 and 3, how could they have even tried to replicate the arcs of some of these characters when you're not even trying to build any kind of personality into them? I know we're probably about 10 minutes into the video at this point, and I still haven't brought up the mispronunciations. Here it is. They mispronounced so many names. Aang became Ung, Sokka became Sokka, Iroh became Iro, Avatar became Avatar, and that wasn't even consistent. Some people said Avatar and some people said Avatar. Now, I know that the director actually said, "I did this intentionally, I did it to honor the culture and to say it the way that they would have said it," but this rings hollow to me, and there's a lot of reasons why. The main reason is because most of the characters that this writer and director changed the names for to honor the culture, he casted as white. That's an odd way to honor a culture, to change the name to honor them, but then not even cast them appropriately. And then on top of that, the ways that the writers of the original show did honor the culture, he stripped of the movie. In the show, they studied fighting techniques of the culture and then modeled the bending based off of those fighting techniques. The movie changed that completely, and then they just waved their arms awkwardly for a while, and then bending happened. The culture that was already there was stripped through the casting and through the way they did the bending. Speaking of bending, that'll be the next thing that we talk about. Let's spend some time talking about the bending in this movie. Not only is the way they chose to show the bending almost comical with what the motions that they chose to give them, but then when the bending actually happens, it's this slow, awkward movement. My favorite scene in the movie, the one scene that I actually genuinely enjoyed because it was so bad that it was so funny, was that big fight scene in the place that was basically the prison camp in the show. And these earthbenders do this funny stomp the yard routine, and then this little bitty rock slowly moves past them, and all the actors stand around and wait until the director shouts, "Now!" And then all the actors spring into action and react to what they assume will be CGI'd in later. And we'll talk more about that, how often people just stood around in action scenes. But I want to harp on the bending a little bit more because they broke the mythos. So in the show, firebending comes from the sun, right? They had this really big thing in season 3 about the eclipse and that completely halting the ability to firebend. The movie decided we don't need that. We're going to make the firebenders need a source. So you're going to have to build a campfire in order to bend. But there are so many problems with this. One, that completely weakens the Fire Nation. They now have this huge hindrance where they're not able to bend under certain circumstances, which not only weakens the villain, but it weakens the world. If they're so weak now, why is the world conquered by them? Now you have the issue that the movie changed the mythos and then broke their own magic system. Multiple times the characters firebend without a source. One really obvious one is when Zuko goes into the Arctic water and then he's stuck inside the ice, and so he fire bends in order to break the ice and come up on the surface. There was no source there. But this happens over and over again. He is able to bend without a source, even though the movie changed the magic so that you have to have a source. At least do consistency. Can you not at least do that? Now I want to talk about pacing, because this is another thing that just went so wrong. Half of the movie was almost the entire season, and then the other half of the movie was the final 2 episodes. I liked that they spent a little bit more time on the final 2 episodes because I would have loved for the show to have spent more time in the Northern Water Tribe, showing us the arc of Aang and Katara learning more waterbending. But it felt so weird. The first half of the movie felt so odd because we were just getting these little snapshots, just these little moments of each episode kind of stitched together. It's like they tried to recreate a scene within the world, within the episode, but then they created another scene and another, and then just tried to make it work together, but without any context for each scene, without anything built around each scene. We're just left feeling really awkward throughout the entire first half of the movie. And then I do think that the second half of the movie was much stronger because we actually spent time building things up, learning things. But even then, I don't understand the choice to change massive elements of the ending of this season with how you did the end of the movie, yet wanting to stay so incredibly true in other ways. Now I want to move on to the action of this movie because it was so bad. I cannot tell you how much standing around there was during the fight scene. I don't think I can exaggerate this enough to hit the mark of what it actually looked like. Every single action scene, we're surrounded by Fire Nation foes who should be threatening, who just do this shuffle, wait for my cue for so long. There are so many instances of, okay, now you do this, and then you do that, and then you do that, and this is your cue. And you could almost hear the director in the background saying, "Now you go," and everybody's just standing there waiting for their cue. Awkward pause. She runs and hits him, then awkward pause, Aang uses his airbending, or a circle of Fire Nation foes standing around Aang and Zuko when Zuko is being the blue spirit, and they're all just standing there watching while 3 men come forward to fight them. There are so many instances where it could have been such an easy battle where our protagonists lose, except that they're so bad at being antagonists. And there's also a lot of standing around for our protagonist. There's so many times where Aang just stands there and stares awkwardly, and then the Fire Nation people just stand there and stare awkwardly too, and then Aang moves, and then a couple Fire Nation people move, but everybody else stands around. It's truly, I've never seen it done so poorly. I have no words. I could rant for a long time about what they did with the fish, what they did with Yue, what they did with Iroh, just watching the whole thing go down and not even attempting to stop it. What they changed with Yue and how that whole thing went down. There's a lot we could rant about, but I'm actually just gonna jump straight to Aang because this is the thing that bothered me way more. And that's when Aang has a moment of, oh, this is bad. I'm overwhelmed. And then he's like, wait a second, tidal wave threatening genocide. I don't even know what they were trying to do with Aang's avatar state in this movie. I still can't wrap my head around what they were attempting here because there really was no avatar state. There wasn't any sort of spirit world. There were no previous avatars. They kind of lumped all the previous avatars into this dragon, which didn't make sense with the mythos of what was already created within the series. They should have just made Avatar Roku represent all the previous avatars. It would have made more sense. But Avatar repeatedly being pulled into some sort of mixture of the Avatar form and the spirit realm, just, I hated it so much. But then back to the scene that I've just interrupted myself discussing. After Aang does that thing again, just somehow, for some reason, goes away to talk to a dragon. He then comes back with ultimate cosmic power. Here's my problem. It was so powerful in the show when Aang had that moment of just being completely overwhelmed and saying, I can't do this. I'm just one kid. And again, his depth and his layers are stripped from him. And instead, he just looks slightly insecure for a minute and then has all the power in the world. Threatens to kill everybody. They decide we should probably just leave. And then everybody bows to the Avatar, including Zuko and Katara. One of the things that makes their dynamic so great is that Aang constantly needs them. He's not just this ultimate powerful, I had a little bit of training, now I can bend this massive tidal wave to threaten everybody and scare them to leave. No, he's scared and insecure and he's very, very talented, but it takes so much work to get there. And he leans on his friends so much while he's trying to get there. But instead, he has all the power in the world and they bow down to him. Honestly, at this point, I'm just so thankful that they didn't have a chance to ruin Toph. I'm trying to keep this short. I'm bouncing around a lot and I'm skipping over major things, and the reason is because we literally have a 2-hour scene-by-scene rant over on Tim's channel, and I'm just trying to make this a condensed version for people who don't want it. But if you want more ranting, if you want more specific breakdown of why every scene sucks, you should really watch that video. But this is my very condensed review of the Avatar movie and all the things that it did so very wrong. At the end of that 2-hour video, Daniel asked us, he challenged us, what's your favorite thing about the movie and your least favorite thing about the movie? My favorite scene by far was that rock throwing scene, stomp the yard, slow pebble moving that way. Because it was so horrendously bad that it made me so happy. And my least favorite is so easily the absolute butchering of the characterization. These characters were either shells and nothing like themselves, or they genuinely tried to put characterization into them but missed the mark so badly. It can't have been this bad. I still don't understand. Once again, that full video is going to be linked in the description if it's still available, but those are my condensed thoughts of this monstrosity. I really thought that you guys were overselling how terrible it was. I should have trusted you at this point. More than anything, the movie just made me sad. I would love to continue to discuss it with you in the comments though. Be sure to chat with me about what your favorite and least favorite part of this movie was. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.